Weak squares are squares on a chessboard that can be exploited and attacked by your opponent's pieces. They represent an area of vulnerability, which can be utilized to either defend or create threats. The center squares, the middle 4 squares of the board, are some of the most important squares as they serve as the central control points of the board. The corners. The 4 corner squares are another set of vulnerable points that can often serve as effective spots for attack, as there are less other pieces to protect them. The edges. The edge squares on the board are also quite vulnerable to attack, as they are often relatively exposed and don't have as much protection as other areas. The squares in front of your king. These squares can often lead to dangerous and exploitable situations for your king, as the spaces in front of the king can easily be accessed by opposing pieces, which can easily create pressure or open up lines of attack towards your king. Squares on the wings. The squares on the side of the board near your rooks can also be vulnerable to attack, as they're often slightly less protected than areas further towards the center. Squares opposite your rooks. Squares opposite your rooks can often be vulnerable, as they can easily become targets for opposing pieces like pawns and minor pieces, allowing them to attack your rooks or block them in. Open files. Open files are files where most pieces have been traded or captured, leaving open lanes for pieces to easily penetrate. These are generally considered vulnerable, as they lack structure and have weak points that can easily be exploited. Closed files. Closed files are the opposite of open files, and refer to files with either many pieces occupying them or blocked by pieces, thus making them more solid and stronger in structure. These files are considered difficult to attack or exploit, as opposing pieces often need to break through multiple pieces to reach the vulnerable squares behind them. Diagonal pawns. Pawns on the front files that are not guarded by any pawns of their own color are commonly considered vulnerable, as their open diagonal allows pieces from opposing sides to penetrate their line easily. Isolated pawns. Pawns with no other pawns nearby, at least 3 files away, are considered isolated and vulnerable as they don't have other pieces in their close vicinity to protect their flanks or their open files. They're generally at risk of being pinned or attacked by opponents' pieces. Backward pawns. Pawns that have not yet made it to the middle of the board or are not on the 4th rank are considered backward pawns and vulnerable, as opposing pieces often have an easier time attacking them without interference. Weak pawns. Pawns that have not been properly supported by other pieces and have been captured or traded are weak pawns, and are easily targeted or exploited.